Today's episode is brought to you by HERdacity. HERdacity is a nonprofit inspiring confidence in women to achieve their professional goals. For resources, networking opportunities, and a strong community of women, visit HERdacity.org to learn more.
Welcome to HERdacious, a podcast for audacious women. Greetings, fam. I'm Lorelei, your host for more professional lady talk, and we're recording out of Moonlab Studios in Austin, Texas. On the show with me today, I have the former owner of a marketing firm that served Fortune 50 companies, author of the book Achieve More by Saying Yes to Less, burnout prevention coach, Joy Evans.
Hi, Lorelei. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Joy. And that's Joy Evans with two N's, Evanns. So, Joy, we have you on today to talk about career moves, career advancement, and when to say yes. So how do we start a conversation on career advancement for the ladies?
I think the biggest question here is, what is it that you want? Because ultimately what we come to is a lot of rules and things that may not even be our choices. We may be sort of living someone else's life, and oftentimes that's our parents or what society has said the next step towards success looks like, and what actually is a match for us based on the stage or season of life that we're in and what our priorities are. It might come down to like, hey, what's that inner thing that's driving us forward individually?
Okay. What if I don't know what that is?
That's a great question.
Sometimes we just move forward because that's what we're told to do. That's what we're trained to do. That's how our education kind of formats the forward progression of our career. And I don't know that we spend a lot of time thinking about that process.
You're absolutely right about that. And it's something that really requires pressing pause for a moment. And lots of times in the busyness of business, whether that's a job or, your own company, whatever that looks like for you, we can get kind of lost in things. And so just taking a moment to stop and do some journaling, some reflection about what's the next stage and what's the next step of what it is that you'd actually like is something that very few women actually do. It's like, oh, I just want to make more money. What does that look like? And then we rush into what appears to be the next step, whether or not that's actually a match for us or not.
Hold on, Joy. You're telling me we should hold on and take a minute and take a breather and ponder on our futures? Is that what you're saying?
You think?
That sounds really intense.
It can be, especially when you've got a lot of programming inside that says, not allowed to do this, not allowed to do this, not allowed to make a lot of money, not allowed to put yourself first, not allowed to say yes to the things that are actually the things that you really want to say yes to. Lots of programming that says, got to put my family first, got to, just show up and give my all and everything to this role that I'm in right now, got to serve my people in the highest way and give my everything away. A lot of us are showing up in really big missions in the world, and none of us are getting paid really well for it. So there's a lot of pieces on the table here that really need to be arranged in a concrete and tangible way to move forward towards the thing that actually doesn't careen us towards burnout and doesn't send us off into something that we want to retire from too quickly or get depressed from. And all of these things, lots of times there's the trajectory that we're on doesn't necessarily land us where it is that we think that we actually wanted to go, because we don't actually pause to consider before we actually make the next move.
So in that pause, we should be doing some reflection, some journaling, pondering on what our career futures could look like. What are the types of questions we need to ask ourselves? Is it, how do I move my career forward? How much money do I want to make? What are my next steps? Do I want to quit? What is the question?
I think the question is, what do I want my life to look like, and how does my work fit into that? The way that we've been designed to think about things is, what's available to me and how do I make money doing the thing based on what's available to me, as opposed to what's the life that I want and now what choices can I imagine that I'd like to say yes to, whether that's, oh, I really only want to be available to work from 8 until 3, or I want to have a flexible schedule, or I don't want to work on the weekends anymore. I want to be able to be available to my family for dinner.
So what do I want?
What do I want in the biggest sense of things? What does life look like? And then how does work fit into that?
Holy cow. That's a big freaking question. What do I want? I want all the things, Joy. All the things. And the money and the fame and the glory. I mean, we have lists of the things that we want. How do you narrow that down? How do we start moving forward in that?
If we start in the relative to the system, Growing up, we were programmed and made ready for factory work. Now, there's nothing wrong with factory work. The issue is mostly with the advent of AI, the way that we're doing business in the future and in the next 10 to 20 and beyond years. Like, life and business is not going to be the same anymore. So we're not robots, and we weren't designed that way. So what are our unique human things that we actually bring to life and work, and how do we create systems and structures that support us in the next level of our career relative to that?
Are you saying that we're educating our children like robots?
You said it.
Just checking. So if we're talking about, working within the system, there's a lot of preloaded programming that each American gets growing up.
Absolutely.
Especially women. Women get a boatload of programming, and not a lot of it's super positive.
For sure. We're programmed to work until we fall apart. We can't stop until we get to the couch and we're ready to die almost.
Ugh.
We've got some big health issue, or we're putting everybody else first. And even just taking that pause to decide, what is it that I want? I don't know about you, but the selfish jab has been totally used as a weapon in my life for a long time. So it's
prioritizing yourself makes you selfish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Heard that.
That gets in the way of us actually advancing in our careers, because we can't actually say yes to, if that's still in play for us, say yes to the things that are most important, whether that's the money, whether that's the time with our family, whether that's I want to have time for ballroom dancing.
I feel like that takes courage, maybe confidence, to bravely say, these are the things that I want.
It does. It does. And it takes vulnerability, because as soon as we start stepping into, this is the thing that I actually want, you're risking potentially not getting it as you move forward. And so that's why it becomes a little bit dangerous. And that's where the courage kind of comes into play.
Okay. So how do women, while being trained for these systems, break out of these systems? Because clearly it is not working for a lot of professionals. It's not working for a lot of professional women. It's not working for women of color. What do we do to break out?
So from my viewpoint, the biggest thing is to recognize that we're not trapped in the system. Whether or not we want to call ourselves part of the system, we are. We're playing the game by the rules until we aren't.
Oh.
So if we're deciding that I'm actually in control of my destiny, I'm not waiting for somebody to promote me, I'm not waiting for somebody to give me an opportunity, I'm ready to create my own opportunity. And I'm a big yes for that. Suddenly now, a lot of other opportunities may present themselves that you get to actually walk through the doors that open more easily. So that might look like, I'm not seeing the opportunity here in this business, but I've got an idea and I'm going to go start my own business. I'm going to make the system work for me and work for other people who are like me.
All right. So what is the decision-making process for this sort of breaking out, this advancement?
Ultimately, I think it comes down to making choices that are aligned. And if we're starting with a vision of where it is that we're going, like the life that you actually want, then you can make choices based on the season of life that you're in. Some people are in a place where the career is their primary focus. Some people are really in this season of building family and so forth, in which case that needs to take the top stage. And it's not that you can't have all the things. It's just hard to work on all the things all at once. So really deciding what your focus is.
So Joy, if the question is, what do I want? I feel like my next question is going to be, where do I start?
And the place that I would start relative to the system that I teach, I call it living with SAS, where SAS is an acronym for simple, aligned, sustainable, and systemized. And the place where most people get tripped up is around that alignment piece. So when we're running in an operating system that says, I'm not allowed to put myself first, I'm not valuable enough to ask for that next thing, I'm not really available to do all of the things that I want to do, well, then we're in trouble already from the start, because we've got a value system and our belief system and perhaps even the actions that we're taking out of alignment with what it is that we're interested in. If our priority is about money, but we're in a job where we're not making the resources that we're interested in, then the opportunity is, okay, what's my next step towards that? Is that looking for a promotion? Is that looking for a new job? Is that looking for a side hustle? Is that starting a new business or doing some consulting? Like, what does that look like relative to what's aligned? And making sure that you're focusing on the inner game, your belief system and your values, and then taking steps forward with that. And most of the time that requires some support in order to sort out what's actually in the way.
Do we have to ask for that support? Do we need to build that support system for ourselves? Should we just naturally know what that means?
I think most women struggle with asking for help, struggle with asking for support. So even admitting like, okay, I don't know where it is that I'm going next is a big deal. And it's a really vulnerable, sensitive place to be, I don't know all of the things. Well, Hello, we don't all know the things.
Right.
I don't know all the things. You don't know all the things. Nobody knows all the things.
That's a sometimes uncomfortable admission.
It is and it isn't. I mean,
it can be freeing for sure once you're ready.
For sure. And it's an opportunity to be in that learning stage of, okay, here's where it is that I want to go. And now I get to learn, grow, shift into stepping into that next spot.
We started off the top of this and asking the question, what do I want, right? And you told us we had to take a minute. We had to take a breath. We had to journal and figure out ourselves. And you're telling me the next step is to get an alignment. Holy cow, I'm doing so much personal homework. I'm doing so much professional digging. This sounds like a lot of reflection. How long could this process take?
Hopefully the rest of your life.
Well, you're not messing around, are you?
The truth of the matter is the most efficient way to move forward is to get yourself into alignment first with what it is that you're interested in creating. And when we don't do that, when we're acting out of alignment with our values, like I have a lot of clients who, would say that they're making money to support their family, and yet they're shortchanging their quality time with their family in order to do that. And when we set up those mismatches, it resets the balance so that we can't actually achieve the thing that we want. And it takes so much more energy to get there, which sets us up for burnout, which is what fundamentally I feel like is the flaw of how we're doing things. We're not designing our life based on what it is that we want. We're trying to fit ourselves into a box where we don't fit.
And so part of avoiding that challenge, the burnout, the struggle, is to stay in alignment with oneself, which is a never-ending process. So one must always be mindful of where we want to go, what we want, how we want to get there, how long it's going to take, and what takes priority in that.
Absolutely. And giving ourselves grace in the places where we notice, oh, okay, like I said that I wanted this thing over here, but if I look at how I'm acting, am I getting up at the time that I said that I was going to? That would require me to move forward with this. For example, if you're working on a side hustle or you're getting your next step of applying for your next position and you need to make space or time for that to happen, but you're not doing those things, then you're not actually acting in alignment with those pieces of the puzzle and everything's going to get off track.
Wow. Well, to stay in alignment with this show, we're going to take a brief sponsor break.
Hi, Barbie here from Moonray, husband and wife indie pop duo. If you enjoy the intro music, we invite you to listen to our debut EP, Honeymoon, streaming now on all platforms. Visit www.moonray-music.com for more.
So Joy, we've just talked a lot about the questions we need to ask ourselves and the personal work and the professional work we need to be doing, the digging deep on our values and getting into alignment with where we want to go, how we want to be. After doing this alignment work and we've discerned what it is we're wanting, what are the next steps in our career moves based on your philosophy of saying yes to less?
So once we figure out the what and the why we want that, the next question is, why are you not there right now?
Whoa, that seems a little harsh.
Well, the reality is if there wasn't some reason of why you weren't there right now, then we wouldn't be having this conversation about what the next step is, right? And so there's some gap, whether that's perception about the system and how it's set up, whether that's, a skill gap, whether that's belief gap of like, I'm valuable enough to be paid that six-figure income or to be paid that multiple six-figure income, whatever that is for you.
Okay. So what needs to happen to get us there?
Again, what we come back to is that support aspect, that asking for help. Once you've kind of got a plan on the table of what are the gaps, we can add support in for the places where it's not a match, where you need some support to move through, change your belief system. You need some support in, practicing asking for what it is that you want, or like somebody who's actually good at what it is that you're not so good at. So what we really need to do is just say yes strategically to the things that are actually our yeses. And if we're doing that strategically, we're focusing on what's most important. So we can't do all of the things all at once. It's just not realistic, especially when we're juggling as many things as most women are juggling.
For real.
We're coming to the table relative to work with our hands already full for most women, with our kids, with our partner, family, caring for parents. Like there's just a lot of things on the table that culturally we haven't figured out how to distribute those responsibilities to other people. And so we can't focus on all the things all at once, nor should we. It might be the thing that's actually the gap between where it is that you are and where it is that you want to go is actually asking for more help from your husband.
Yeah. Once we start figuring out where the gaps are, how do I start narrowing down what to say yes to? Because there could be a lot of gaps, right? There could be like an education gap. There could be a training gap, a certification gap. There could be a distance gap. There could be a lot of different challenges, a lot of hurdles or roadblocks keeping me from getting where I want to be in my next career phase. And obviously you got to do the homework and the reflection and ask these tough questions to get a clearer path on where we want to go. But once I figure out where I want to go, I have to start saying no, right? You're telling me I have to be more strategic in saying yes.
Ultimately, whatever it is that you're saying yes to, you're saying no to everything else. So however it is that you're prioritizing your time, that's what it is that your actual yes is. However it is that you choose and you take action on, that's what it is that your actual priority is. So even if you say that your priority is, oh, my family comes first, but you're not doing the things relative to work in alignment with that to make space for that to be a thing, we get out of sorts about it. So when we're actually prioritizing that next phase of work for us, what can be a yes in this season might be actually getting some more support. That might be a nanny, that might be a childcare place, that might be more support from your husband. We need to onboard more support from more places. And if we're the ones who are holding all of the things, the reality is our career is not going to move forward because there's no space for it. And if there is space for it, we're going to jeopardize our health. We're going to jeopardize our marriage. You know, people get divorced all of the time because we're trying to do too many things all at once. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to run my career like that.
I don't want to run my life like that. It seems like we have the potential to lose focus on where we want to go, how we want to get there. If women are juggling all of these different plates and we're still trying to move our career forward, we got to streamline our focus somehow.
My feeling is the answer to that is actually asking for more help.
More help.
More help. I heard a story at an event yesterday. Someone was telling me about how she was traveling for the day and her husband was calling her up and saying, hey, how does Johnny do this thing over here? And he couldn't actually hold it together on his own to handle all of the stuff that she normally handled. And he actually probably didn't even know what it is that she was handling until he was holding the bag. And that's not an uncommon story. I hear it from so many clients of mine that the partnership is actually part of the issue relative to work, that if we expect more of our partners to show up in the things that we're holding, if we're willing to let go of control about some certain things, then we are more available to do some of the things that are actually our yeses. But when that internal programming is running us, where I need to be all things to all people, I need to be the one to hold it together.
I need to be the one that knows where Johnny goes at 4 o'clock.
Yes, exactly. Or what to do when Johnny doesn't want to go where he's supposed to go at 4 o'clock.
Oof. So we mentioned previously that when we are saying yes to certain things, we are saying no. So the opportunity cost there. Talk to me about the opportunity cost.
I think the biggest opportunity cost is honestly our health and our happiness. And you can always get more money, can't always get more time. We only have the 24 hours a day. So our health and our happiness, so happiness is usually going to be related to our relationships. When you get to the end of our life, there's been a lot of people who have done research about what people say that they want at the end of their life, what they wished for and what they have regrets about at the end of their life. And they never wished that they worked more.
Yeah, I get that. I don't wish that right now.
They wish that they had spent more time with the people that they loved. And I'm not saying that money isn't on the table here as being a relevant conversation relative to work, because it certainly is. But if we are focused on the whole picture of what matters, not just this one small part of it, like more money on the table doesn't fix all the problems. I know a lot of people who have a lot of money who are extraordinarily unhappy. And so if we're actually working towards making more contribution and showing up in a bigger way, delivering the thing it is that we're for, we get to say yes to the thing that we're actually for, making money in the way that we were designed, unique to us, as opposed to following a system that wants us to be in this perfect little box that most of us try on what it feels like. And it's like, oh, the pant leg is too short and, you know, the waist is too tight. And like, it's just not actually that comfortable if we're honest with ourselves.
Again, what I keep coming back to is that we have to do this work. We have to do all this reflection and plan out some of the things that we want out of our lives to feel confident in the choices that we're making, which that seems pretty tricky sometimes to feel confident in your life choices. Because, man, life choices, they're heavy.
Or they're light if you're actually following what lights you up. If you're doing what it is that you think you have to do in order to make money, we're screwed. Like all of us, like we're seeing how that plays out in our world right now, the environment and how we're treating people in organizations. If it's money at any cost, like that functionally, as we live that out as a system, it doesn't work. That starts with the individual really saying, this is the thing that I want that's really aligned for me. And this is the thing that I'm saying yes to, and I'm honoring that, and I am unique and valuable. and productive, and I deserve to be compensated for the value it is that I'm showing up with and delivering in the world.
And that compensation can come in many different forms.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love this talk about being in alignment with oneself. I definitely don't feel like we hear that message enough. And I would want to encourage all of you listening to grab Joy's book, Achieve More by Saying Yes to Less, which is currently on sale on Amazon, and check out different ways, tools, and strategies to say yes to less while maximizing one's life, one's potential, and one's career opportunities. Joy, it has been a pleasure. It has been a joy to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Lorelei.
So to close out our episode today, I would like to share a Femme fact to stimulate your brains and increase your knowledge of women's history. And today we're going to talk about beer, one of the happy and tumultuous, questionable pastimes of America and much of the world. 55% of Americans report having consumed alcohol in the past month. And what is the beverage of choice amongst those Americans, you may ask? Why, it's beer, of course. And while many folk may think of beer as a dude's drink, beer has a very rich history of female involvement, to include its very creation. That's right, folks. Ladies invented beer. A little more than 7,000 years ago, in fact, women in Mesopotamia and Sumeria cooked cereal, water, and herbs together, creating the first fermented brew. There exists a 4,000-year-old Sumerian poem titled The Hymn to Ninkasi, patron goddess of brewing, which contains the oldest surviving beer recipe on the planet, describing the production of beer from barley. And I want to read a favorite excerpt of mine that I found in some of the poems that were dedicated to the goddess Ninkasi. Ninkasi, the expert who redounds to her mother's credit. Her fermenting vat is a green lapis lazuli. Her beer cask is of refined silver and of gold. If she stands by the beer, there is joy. If she sits by the beer, there is gladness. As cupbearer, she mixes the beer, never wearying as she walks back and forth. Ninkasi, the keg at her side, on her hips. May she make my beer serving perfect. Oh man, classic. As a side note, neither HERdacious nor its sponsors advocate the consumption of alcohol, and if you do choose to drink, please do so responsibly. If you or a loved one might have a problem with drinking, please contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. And that is all the time we have for today. If you liked our show, please subscribe and please tell a friend. I'm Lorelei, and this has been HERdacious. Until next time, go be bold, go be true, go be you.